Welcome to Trauma Healing for Christian Women. I'm Michelle Croyle, a licensed professional counselor in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I'm glad you're listening in. You know, when I work with clients, one of the things that most stands out to me is this sense of responsibility. A lot of my clients have an overly responsible sense of responsibility. So they don't want to hurt other people's feelings. They don't want to step on other people's toes. They want to make sure that everybody feels okay and no one's mad at them, and that they are taking care of everybody because they would rather take the hits than feel responsible and guilty for other people having to suffer or suffer the consequences of their own actions. And if that's you, this might be a helpful episode. Sometimes it also shows up in self-abandoning, meaning like not being able to make decisions or know what you actually want, being able to answer from your needs and your preferences. Maybe you've been shamed for that before, or maybe other people kind of soaked up all of the energy in the room and left it without any left over for you. So today we're talking about this concept, this feeling overly responsible for everything and everyone and quietly abandoning yourself. So if you resonate with being the reliable one, the responsible one, the strong one, the one who anticipates everyone's needs or who feels guilty resting, this episode is for you. So what does overly responsible actually mean? Well, it means being more than just responsible, right? Being responsible is healthy. It's taking ownership of our own stuff. It's noticing what belongs to us and making sure that we rise to the occasion, stepping into stewarding well what God has entrusted to us. So our thoughts, our actions, our feelings, and doing that in light of focusing on the ways the Lord would have us to think and respond, right? And then helping ourselves to get the care we need when we're not feeling so great about ourselves or when we could use some extra care, taking responsibility for self-soothing or regulating or getting a break when we need it or resting when we need it, right? But being overly responsible may mean stuff like feeling accountable for other people's emotions, other people's outcomes, other people's comfort, other people's reactions. Like if you walk into a room and you notice immediately who's upset, who needs help, who needs attention, what might go wrong, how you can prevent any disturbance, you might be having a trauma response, that tension might be there because you're hyper scanning, you're hyper aware, you're trying to prevent blowups or meltdowns or guilt or shame, things that you've been conditioned in your life to feel, this over responsibility for the things that actually belong to other people to steward. And then slowly, maybe without realizing it, you start to try to manage everyone else's world at the expense of your own. And that's where self-abandonment begins, right? It's this concept of saying yes when you mean no, minimizing your needs because other people's needs seem more important or overwhelming, feeling like your needs may be inconvenient or not as important, or, oh, you're just the casualty and other people deserve to be paid attention to more. Their problems are worse than yours, minimizing yourself, overriding your own feelings and needs, overriding your exhaustion to be helpful, suppressing your feelings to avoid conflict, making yourself smaller so others can stay comfortable. Those are signs of trauma, conditioning, over responsibility. You become hyper attuned to others, and therefore you're disconnecting from truth and reality in yourself. And the scary part is you may not even notice that you're doing it. If it feels like I'm just being a good person, I'm just being responsible, I'm trying not to be selfish, no one else will handle it, so I should step up to it. Again, that word should or shouldn't is often a trigger that this is not actually something that is truly authentic as a choice for you. It's more of an obligation of the way things are supposed to be, and whoever told you they were supposed to or not supposed to be that way, sometimes we need to question that. Is this actual responsibility, or is this an interpretation or a conditioning of a thought that or a responsibility that got from somewhere else, but not actually God, not actually truth, not actually my responsibility. And so inside, you may feel indicators like resentment, fatigue, being dismissed, alone, any of those things that indicate that maybe you have betrayed your truth, your needs, and tried to take on too much that actually belongs to other people. So, again, this pattern may become something that you struggle with because of conditioning. This pattern can begin early, like maybe you grew up in a home where even as a child you had to be the mature one, where the adults were more immature and couldn't actually rise to the occasion to provide for your emotional needs. So you felt you had to be the emotional caretaker. Or maybe where conflict was so much around you and things felt unsafe, and the only way that you felt you could be safe was to kind of let your needs be unseen or to try to keep the peace so that other people wouldn't continue their bad behavior or explode or take it out on others. Or maybe where love felt conditional and chaos meant that you had to stay on alert. So, as a child, being hyper responsible may have kept you safe. It may have kept you from overwhelming feelings of when people didn't take care, the adults didn't take care of their own stuff. It kept you from overwhelming feelings of what will the adults do next that scares me, right? But as an adult, it can keep you exhausted and it can keep you in patterns that don't actually help. And they don't actually help anybody, right? So there's a concept in psychology that children can internalize responsibility for things that are outside of their control. Therefore, things that actually belong to the adults, such as adults being able to monitor their own emotional reactions to get their needs met apart from children, for children to not have to worry about the adults being able to take care of themselves, when that's not taken care of, a child may think, if I behave better, maybe everybody will be okay. And that can follow you into adulthood, right? If I do more, fix more, manage more, stay small, maybe everything will stay stable and no one gets hurt. And you are not responsible for that. As a child, you didn't know that because children developmentally think things are like magically revolving around them and that they can make things happen that aren't actually things that they can control. But yet you will try if you feel like it's a matter of safety or a matter of someone you care about seeming dysregulated or angry or sad or too much emotions that scare you. It's much easier to feel like you have some control about it as a child, which makes you feel more responsible. And the cycle continues unless you challenge it in adulthood. But that challenge is really important because as an adult, you are responsible for regulating yourself. You are not responsible for regulating everybody else and the entire world. So here are some signs that you are functioning in an overly responsible manner. See if any of these resonate with you. And if they do, they might indicate some trauma, some conditioning, some patterns that could use some therapeutic help. You apologize all the time for things that aren't even your fault. You feel guilty when you rest. You feel anxious when someone's upset, even if it has nothing to do with you. You struggle to ask for help. You feel resentful but don't express it. You fear being seen as selfish, or you believe your worth is tied to how other people see you or how useful you are. That's not love. That's performance. That's a role you're playing. That's not the authentic you. The cost of being the strong one, of being overly responsible, looks good and is often praised, right? Oh, you're so on top of things. You're always so dependable. Boy, you have it all together. Great job on that, right? I don't know what we'd do without you. Those are the things that society praises, right? They're the things in school or in job promotions, like, oh, look how great they're doing. They do more than their share. And it seems like that's a healthy thing. But there are hidden costs to that. There's burnout, there's emotional numbness, there's anger internally, there's impositions internally, there's a loss of identity, a loss of self, that's self-abandonment. And that can also lead to relationships that feel one-sided. It kind of is a loss of your ability to connect with the true you and instead show up as an actress who feels like she's succeeding at a role that she never got asked to play, but she certainly got cast in. And so when you abandon yourself long enough, you may not even know what you want anymore. And you may only be really aware of the discomfort that comes if you kind of cross these long ago desired rules that you thought you had to follow to be able to keep things going well. So if this pattern has been your survival strategy, letting go can feel dangerous, right? You might start thinking, if I stop functioning in this way, everyone or everything will fall apart. If I set boundaries, I'll be alone. If I rest, people will think I'm lazy. If I say no, people will think I'm selfish. But the truth is that over-responsibility is often rooted in your system trying to protect you from fear. Fear of rejection, fear of chaos, fear of being unloved, fear of being hurt. But healing means being able to tolerate the discomfort of not being able to fix everything. Let me say that one more time. Healing means being able to notice and tolerate the discomfort that comes with knowing this belongs to somebody else, that you are not responsible for fixing everything for everybody. So how do you stop abandoning? Well, this isn't about, not caring about people. This isn't about being selfish. This is simply noticing when your body tightens, when you feel like you can't swallow, when your jaw gets tight, when you feel like you're carrying the world on your shoulders, when you feel like internally like someone punched you in the stomach, or you notice that like you just can't swallow, can't get your voice out, feel obligated, and something that's driving you, but not in a relaxed, peaceful, oh yeah, this sounds great, but more of a have to, you might be about to overfunction. So a good thing that you can do is to ask yourself, is this actually mine to carry? Or does this emotion or this responsibility or this consequence belong to somebody else? Is this my choice or is this a choice that belongs to somebody else? When you can ask yourself, is this actually mine to carry? It helps you to see whether it's your responsibility or actually someone else's. And then being able to practice setting boundaries rather than just picking up that role and acting as the role that you've always acted in, trying to make everything better. Disappointment in other people does not mean danger to you. And if it does put you in emotional danger or physical danger in some way, that is because of the people that you're interacting with, and it is okay to set boundaries to step away from people who are not behaving. You do not have to tolerate bad behavior. You can set boundaries and say, hey, when you stop screaming like that and you're willing to talk, I'll talk with you. When you stop swearing at me or threatening me or putting me down, then maybe we can discuss this. But until you act in a responsible, mature manner, I'm going to remove myself from your presence, right? Or if they can't handle it and you feel in danger, you don't have to tell them. You can just simply make a choice to say, I will no longer be around this person who is misbehaving and mistreating me or mishandling situations. It's okay to do stuff because it's good for you. You are not better than or less than other people, but you are equal to deserve respect, to deserve to be treated with dignity, and to not be the one compromised because of other people's bad behavior. Reconnecting with yourself might also mean noticing how you actually feel, noticing what you actually need, noticing what you actually want, identifying your actual preference and voice rather than squelching it because somebody else is louder, more demanding, more critical, can't control their own stuff. All right. So I want you to notice your own voice. What do you want? What do you feel? What do you need? Those are the things that you are responsible for stewarding. Self-responsibility is healthy. Over responsibility is self-erasure and taking on what actually belongs to other people. You're allowed to rest without having to earn it, to say no without having to explain yourself, to let others handle their own emotions without feeling the weight on your own shoulders, and to stop feeling like you have to fix what isn't yours. Being loving and caring does not require abandoning yourself. Being dependable does not require disappearing. The strongest thing you can do might not be holding everything together all the time for everyone. It might be allowing yourself to put down that burden and that role and let other people take responsibility for what belongs to them. So if this resonated, I hope you'll just take a moment to reflect, maybe do a little bit of journaling, a little bit of prayer about this, asking God, what are you carrying that isn't actually yours? What are you actually responsible for? And what absolutely is not yours to have to manage? And what would it feel like to be able to let it down? Even if it's uncomfortable, would you be willing to try something different so that you don't have to carry these burdens of this heaviness of stuff that makes you erase yourself and makes you take on too much that actually other people are responsible for doing their own work about? You deserve to be able to exist in your own life without all of that heaviness or obligation that actually belongs to others. You're not the fixer. You're not God. You don't have to be everybody's strong one. You can be a whole, real person, and I hope this is encouraging to you. If you could use some help with getting through a lot of this conditioning and the messages that went around or go around in your head with it, the things that have been around so long from conditioning, childhood abuse or neglect, things that just have put you in the position of feeling compromised from being your own self to feel responsible for others, and you would like to work with me on that, I invite you to reach out to me for a free consultation. You can click the link in the show notes to do that. I would love to hear what's going on in your life, and we can talk about how doing a therapeutic intensive with me can be beneficial for you if it does meet your needs. And if not, I can point you in the right direction for something that will. But this is something that I help a lot of my clients deal with, is being able to sort through emotionally, physically, and mentally and spiritually what belongs to them and what belongs to others, not just on a mental level and on a reasoning level, but also on a gut level, on processing through the feelings, the discomfort, the sense of obligation in your body so that you can be free from that. So if you would like to talk with me about how a therapeutic intensive can help you and work for you, you can go to calendly.com/Michelle Croyle or click the link to schedule in the show notes for that free consultation. I'd love to talk with you. If you're willing to come to Pennsylvania or you already live in Pennsylvania, either way, we can talk about what that could look like. Now, there's no pressure to do that, but if you're not in that state yet, you're not ready to take action, I want you to be able to get some more information about trauma and how it works. And if you would like that free download to tell you more about trauma, that's also in the show notes. So you can just hop into the show notes and find that and download that. And hopefully that'll be helpful to you as you take your next steps in your trauma healing journey. As always, I want to tell you this is just for informational purposes only. This is educational. It's not therapy. It's not professional advice. So if you do need a therapist, please seek out a professional. And if you want to work with me, I'd love to hear from you. I'll talk to you next week. Take care.